Hello, this is Jennifer Schaus, and welcome to week 10 in our government contracting webinar series. This is the last week in this particular series. All of the previous webinars that we have conducted during these last 10 weeks, as well as over the last 4 or 5 years, can be found on our website under the webinar section. You can also find us on YouTube, where there's a comprehensive list as well. A little bit about us. We are based in downtown Washington, D.C., provide a variety of services for both product and service companies that range from market analysis reports, 8A certification, contract compliance, and GSA schedules. We do host networking events and seminars throughout the year. You can find those under the events section on our website, or you can subscribe to our newsletter, which will keep you abreast of everything that's happening in the government contracting sector. My background is listed here, which covers past, present, and some classes that I teach through some of the local PTAPs, as well as 20 years in federal government contracting. Today we're talking about the GSA schedule, specifically part 2 of the proposal, which is the technical section. First, I want to talk about what a GSA schedule is. It is only a marketing tool and certainly not required to do business with the government. GSA schedules are really only used about 10 to 15% of the time in government purchases. So it is one of many ways that the government purchases. Many agencies have their own contract vehicles. It's sometimes considered a multiple award schedule, MAS, meaning that there are multiple companies that hold the GSA schedule, and it's categorized as a federal supply schedule, or FSS. Initially, when companies get onto the schedule, it's a 5-year contract with 3 5-year renewable periods. So from start to finish, the GSA schedule is a 20-year contract. Most of what goes into the schedule is 99% based on your pricing. Some of the benefits of a GSA schedule, it makes it much easier for the government to purchase from you. It will give you access to special RFP and RFQ notifications that are dedicated just to the companies that are listed in the same SIN number, special item number, as you. So there's about 18 to 20,000 companies that hold GSA schedules, and within every schedule you have special item numbers that further identify what your offering is. The RFPs that you get will only go to those on the special item number list. Having a GSA schedule also shows the government and prime contractors that you're serious, that you've passed the GSA test, and it will limit the competition somewhat. So when we work with companies, we want to make sure that they meet but preferably exceed both the pre- and post-award requirements. Make sure that they have everything that's necessary and required to get onto the schedule that will not give GSA any hesitation. But then we also want to make sure that they're going to meet and exceed the requirements and the terms and conditions of the contract. Are they going to be able to bring in $25,000 per year through the schedule easily? Do their customers actually purchase through the schedule? And are their rates going to be competitive? The worst thing to do is to get onto the schedule and box yourself in, have lower margins, and not be able to meet the sales requirements. As I mentioned, the schedule is just one of many ways that the government purchases. There's simplified acquisitions, which are set aside for small businesses at certain thresholds, and there's full and open competition. You'll find those RFPs on FedBiz Ops, and then there's set-aside contracts for those that are certified, women-owned, veteran-owned, HUB-Zone 8A, and more. The GSA schedule in this particular snapshot indicates and represents the lowest portion of how the government was purchasing a specific service. It still represents a good chunk of money, billions of dollars, but it wasn't the primary way that the government was purchasing the services for this particular company. Okay, so the technical section. Let's dig into the meat and potatoes of this part. It's composed of 4 main sections: the corporate narrative, the quality control, project experiences, and the past performance survey. The corporate narrative. This is pretty easy. It's a 2-page maximum. There are 7 questions that will get into the details of your executives and their experience, the number of your full-time employees, the resources that you have available, the history of the company and your organizational structure, as well as the accounting systems that you're using and what accounting controls you have in place. If you're using any services or you're providing services to the government, they want to know how you have access to these people. Are you using recruiting firms or other resources to secure labor? Additionally, here in this section, you will indicate how you are marketing your services to the government and if in the event you happen to use any subcontractors. Second part of this is the quality control. Again, a pretty easy piece to fill out. Also a 2-page max with the corporate narrative. This one contains 6 questions, obviously based around the quality control procedures that you have in place. Who within your company is responsible for overseeing quality control? If you're using subcontractors, GSA wants to make sure that there's a seamless transfer of your quality control procedures in place. Anytime you encounter problems, how do you resolve those? What is the process that those individuals that maybe are experiencing problems on the customer side go through? Who do they reach out to? What do you do internally to resolve their issues? When you do have urgent requirements or you're dealing with multiple projects or contracts at the same time, GSA wants to ensure that the quality will still remain high. Okay, so those first 2 pieces are pretty easy, 2 pages maximum. Now we get into the project experiences. The project experiences will be contracts that are relevant to the special item number that you are pursuing. The 4-page maximum. You'll need a copy of the contract, which hopefully includes the statement of work. That statement of work, again, should be relevant to the SIN number that you are pursuing. You'll need 2 projects for each SIN number. However, if you are pursuing the Schedule 70, SIN number 132-51 for IT professional services, you'll actually need 3 projects. These also need to be within the last 2 years down to the month that you are submitting. So if you submit your proposal to GSA in November of 2017, those projects cannot have ended before November of 2015. If they ended on October 31st, it will be irrelevant and it will not count towards the project experiences. If you have any contracts that are cleared or for cleared work, or it's top secret and you can't provide the copy of the contract, you're going to need to find one that you can actually submit the copy of the contract and the statement of work. So there's a GSA form that you will plug in the information and the data points that they're looking for here. If the dollar value of the entire project, let's say, is $1 million, 300,000 of that was used for, let's just say this is a hypothetical, 300,000 was for janitorial and sanitation services, and the 700,000 that remained was for IT services, and you're proposing to get onto the IT services schedule and SIN, then you would list here the dollar value of the entire project, or $1 million, and then the dollar value received for the work performed relevant to the SIN. You'll differentiate here and indicate $700,000. For the brief summary of the project, you then would only list the work relevant to the SIN. And here's where you would also attach the copy of the contract / statement of work. There's a couple questions that you'll have to answer as well. How the work that you performed in this contract is relevant to the SIN. I highly suggest using the same verbiage that's in the SIN. The second part, GSA wants to understand how you work with clients, so the methodology and processes involved in working with clients and performing the work. If there are any laws, regulations, if your folks have any certifications, you would certainly list those here. The project schedule. If this is a couple-year contract, maybe you start out with in Q1 we achieved X, Y, and Z in Q2. If it's a shorter contract, maybe it's week 1 or month 1. So indicate here what you actually achieved, when you achieved it, and your major deliverables. 5 and 5 is going to ask how what you did in this contract, again, is similar to the schedule and the special item number. Number 6 is going to be indicating why you were selected for this particular contract. So you probably want to list here your past performance experience. So any other work that you've done that was similar to the project that you were listing, I would highly suggest posting any and all past performance that you have here, again, relative to the special item number. Now, these projects can be commercial contracts, they can be government, they can be your business perhaps with a subcontractor, they can be state and local, they can be nonprofit, any customers, any contracts that you've worked on that are relevant to the special item number. However, let's say you do have multiple contracts to choose from. I would first prioritize by using government contracts, and that can include subcontracting. Second, you want significant dollar value contracts. So if it's a $5,000 or $10,000 contract, it's probably not going to fly as well as something that's closer to $250,000 or millions of dollars. The next section is the past performance surveys. There's a company called Open Ratings that's a subsidiary of Dun & Bradstreet that will conduct an anonymous survey of your 6, hopefully, happy customers. You must use all the customers that you listed as your point of contact from that previous section in the project experiences. So if your point of contact from ABC Company was Joe Smith will need to be listed in the Open Ratings Past Performance Survey. The best practice here would be notifying your customers that you are applying to get onto the GSA schedule and letting them know that they will be receiving a survey by email from Open Ratings. Should only take about 10 to 15 minutes tops of their time. It does not cost them anything, but it will cost you approximately $200. Estimated time to get through the technical section is about 2 weeks to 1 month. A lot of it will be dependent upon the resources that your company has available, how readily available the contracts and the statements of work is, as well as how quickly your survey folks complete their survey. As mentioned earlier, the estimated cost is going to be about $200 for that Open Rating survey, plus the time that you put into completing this section. Best practices, you want to make sure all of your documents are within the required timeframes. The Open Ratings report is only going to be good for 12 months, so 365 days. If it is the 366th day after the survey, your proposal is most likely going to be rejected. The project experiences, again, should be relevant within the last 2 years, but down to the month that you're submitting. Some common errors. Many companies will submit projects that are not relevant to the SIN. Make sure that that statement of work is similar to the SIN number that you're pursuing. Sometimes companies will submit contracts that have expired from that 2-year time period, as well as the Open Ratings being out of date. If you have questions about this section or any others, you can contact us by phone or email. Jump onto our website. Tomorrow we're covering the GSA Schedule pricing section, and Friday we'll get into sole source contracts. Thanks again for joining us.